We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
In 1961, upon leaving office, President Dwight Eisenhower warned of the excessive growing danger of what he termed the military-industrial complex, a warning perhaps more than a half-century too late, for by the year 1900, the United States was already experiencing radical transformation, both socially and economically, thanks to the Industrial Revolution. This expansion of vast industrial manufacturing was spawned by a generation of ruthlessly ambitious tycoons who rose to dominate the railroad, steel, petroleum, and banking industries.
America is now a very different country from the nation of small farmers and merchants imagined by Thomas Paine and Thomas Jefferson. Little more than 100 years after the Revolution, the robber barons have transformed it into a corporate giant and made the U.S. the world power in oil, steel, finance, and communications.
And by 1914, industrialization had spread to the empires of Europe, England, France, Germany, and Russia, with each nation competing for the precious global resources required to maintain such vast industrialization. So naturally, this fierce competition resulted in war, global war, elevated to an industrial scale and named World War I. And who were the victors of this hideous conflict that cost nearly 17 million human lives? The British, the French, the Russians, the Americans, certainly not the Germans. No, the ultimate victors of that war to end all wars were the international bankers who financed it. War and its military industries became the most profitable cash cow for international bankers who naturally financed all sides of the conflict. Of course, once the conflict ceased, predictably, the cash flow stopped as well. So obviously, the easiest way to restore that cash flow meant manufacturing yet more wars. And so, over the remaining balance of the 20th century, we have seen this insatiable lust for war profits evolve into a perpetual motion money machine, which we recognize today by its cliché label, the military-industrial complex. But rather than an exclusive instrument of United States national interest, this conglomerate now serves the interlocked corporate, political, and banking elite of our entire world, who consider themselves much the same as did the British aristocracy of the 19th century, to be the master race, a race whose evolutionary duty is to manage the ignorant masses. And conversely, this wealthy minority, who now own the planet, believe it is their right to govern it, not the general public's. Thus the wealthy elite view the mass majority as incapable of governing. Therefore, management responsibility must be exclusively held by the genetically superior, moneyed class. These same ruling elite embrace the cold practicality of social Darwinism that reasons, since all humans will die eventually, to hasten the extinction of useless segments of humanity for profit through deliberately engineered wars justifies a greater good, preservation of the superior class. So is it not obvious that the true enemies of the human race are not Nazis or communists or even Muslim terrorists, but rather the wealthy, ruling 1% of the population, who manufacture mass human conflict to generate perpetual war profits and population management?
Meet Smedley Butler. His father was both a lawyer and a politician. He was elected to the House of Representatives in 1897. He joined the Army at the age of 16, and at the age of 48, he became the Army's youngest Major General. He was twice decorated with the Congressional Medal of Honor. In July 1934, Butler was approached by two men who offered him $30 million and the support of 500,000 troops and the mainstream media to lead a coup against President Roosevelt and remove him from office. Butler pretended to go along with it, eventually meeting with the main conspirators behind the plot. The DuPont family and leaders of U.S. Steel, Heinz, Standard Oil, General Motors, Chase National Bank, Goodyear Tires, and last but certainly not least, Prescott Bush himself, President George W. Bush's grandfather. The intention was to install a fascist regime like the ones in Nazi Germany and Communist Russia, in hopes of beating the Great Depression. Butler attempted to blow the whistle on the plot, testifying before a committee of House Representatives John McCormick and Samuel Dickstein. Want to guess what happened? The representatives believed Butler, but refused to pursue the people responsible. The media turned on Butler, calling his allegations a hoax, perfect moonshine, as one put it. President Roosevelt eventually cut a deal with the plotters, and nothing more came of it.
In 1933, United States Marine Corps Major General Smedley Butler stated, "War is just a racket. A racket is best described, I believe, as something that is not what it seems to the majority of people. Only a small inside group knows what it is about. It is conducted for the benefit of the very few at the expense of the masses." What seems uncanny and nearly supernatural about the Industrial Revolution itself is how swiftly human technology has advanced over scarcely more than 100 years, from covered wagons to space shuttles. A technological transformation which has rendered the entire human social structure into something toxic and virtually alien to this planet's natural environment. So where are we going in such an all-fired hurry? Are humans even in charge of their own destiny? Do we fully understand the true history of our species? Did our remote ancestors actually slither out of some primordial soup, as Darwinian theorists would have us believe? Or is our species somebody else's vast DNA experiment? Jehovah's explicit command from the Holy Bible, "Let us make man in our image," certainly lends suspicion to the notion that the human species was somehow manufactured. And of course, texts from ancient Mesopotamian cultures explicitly state that sky gods originally visited the earth and populated it with their progeny, and that these same sky gods covertly maintain rulership of this planet to this day through discrete proxy bloodlines. The record of this occult or hidden history of humanity's origins, the great work of the ages, is preserved in the archives of modern secret societies. Is it any wonder that the world's most iconic sky god relic dominates our own national currency, the Great Pyramid of Egypt? As such, do we dare suppose that, rather than following a natural progression of intellectual maturity, humanity's incredible technological advances over the last century have been guided by a hidden hand to follow a very specific agenda, an alien agenda known only to secret society high initiates? In 1991, famed whistleblower, Area 51 physicist Bob Lazar cryptically revealed,
"There's a small segment of the United States government that makes scientific and technological judgments from a knowledge base that is not available to the general public. If the following information is true, the United States government also makes judgments on a historical, philosophical, and even theological level from a knowledge base that is not available to the general public."
Recent revelations concerning humanity's role in this vast galactic alien agenda have exposed a fantastic extraterrestrial technology exchange that has accelerated within the military-industrial complex since before World War II, beginning in Nazi Germany. Thanks to fierce anti-German prejudice in the American media following World War II, it has been difficult to discern accurate details of sensitive weapons projects engaged by Hitler's Third Reich. But over time, bizarre rumors of exotic circular flying machines devised by the Nazis began to flourish. In 1980, author W.A. Harbinson published a compelling novel entitled Genesis, which wove a fictional account attributing the pervasive UFO phenomenon to Nazi technology rather than space aliens. Yet within Harbinson's novel, he included an appendix of extensive research that verified serious vertical lift circular disc aircraft development had in fact been engaged by German Luftwaffe designers during the war. Then later in the early 1990s, an extraordinary video, UFO Secrets of the Third Reich, produced by a pair of Austrian researchers, Norbert Jürgen Rathofer and Ralph Ettel, became public that also claimed UFOs were German vengeance weapons developed before the close of the war and shipped to hidden bases in South America as well as both the North and South Poles. This account reveals the Nazi saucer legend had originated from telepathic contact with extraterrestrials, who allegedly supplied technical design information to German secret societies for flying saucer construction. So after well more than half a century since World War II, one would think the outlandish tabloid claims of flying saucer projects engaged by Germany's Third Reich would have faded into oblivion. But the exact opposite seems to be the case. With each passing year, as more Nazi saucer information becomes public, fascination with this legend continues to grow exponentially. Of course, just how much of this legend is actual truth remains to be seen. But the heart of this persistent legend centers around a mysterious girl from Vienna, Austria, named Maria Orsic, who was said to be the psychic conduit for extraterrestrial data transfer. And while skeptics dismiss her veracity as mystical occult rubbish, it should be noted that by today's standards, such psychic work would be labeled remote viewing, a legitimate science used by our own national intelligence agencies. As well, noted inventor Nikola Tesla claimed many of his genius designs, such as the alternating current electrical generator, came to him telepathically. And just like Nikola Tesla, Maria Orsic's telepathic information also revealed the secrets of torsion physics technology, the key to ultimate power. So more than inane dabbling in absurd spiritualism, German scholars saw Maria Orsic's extraterrestrial channeling as a legitimate avenue to pursuing alternative science and alternative technologies that offered the German nation potential liberation from crippling codependence upon British and American petroleum monopolies. But of course, the Nazi war machine did not exist in an independent economic bubble. Adolf Hitler did not pay for the Third Reich out of his own pocket. The Reich was a political creation of international capitalists and defense contractors, the military-industrial complex. The very existence of the Third Reich was thanks to the financial and manufacturing support of corporate giants like Ford Motor Company, General Motors, Standard Oil, IBM, IT&T, not to mention investors like Union Banking Corporation, whose chairman, Prescott Bush, personally profited from slave labor concentration camps like Auschwitz. Even Britain's Rolls-Royce Motor Company designed engines for the Nazi Messerschmitt 109 fighter planes. War serves to generate accelerated technological advances through multinational military competitions. So, as stated earlier, the winners in every war are the bankers and the defense contractors, certainly not the dead soldiers littered across the world's battlefields. So for Nazi V-2 rocket programs to be Americanized after the war was perfectly natural, since German National Socialism was an American business enterprise from the beginning. American capitalists had originally financed such weapons research, and they had rightful proprietary claim to any and all Nazi military hardware, since they had paid for it in the first place. With this in mind, it seems perfectly reasonable that over the course of the war, American military intelligence units would have infiltrated Nazi weapons research operations to monitor just how American corporate investor monies were being spent. And torsion physics, anti-gravity, free energy technologies would have been the most valued military prize imaginable to be gleaned from Nazi weapons innovations. In 2001, whistleblower Gary McKinnon, a British citizen and computer genius, claimed to have hacked into 53 United States government agency computer systems, including the United States Space Command Network, where he found evidence of an off-planet military mission. I found a list of officers' names, under the heading Non-Terrestrial Officers. What I think it means is not Earth-based. I found a list of fleet-to-fleet transfers and a list of ship names. I looked them up. They weren't United States Navy ships. What I saw made me believe they have some kind of spaceship off-planet.
And the other thing was a list of ship-to-ship and fleet-to-fleet transfers. Bear in mind fleet-to-fleet, so multiple ships, of materials. I surmised that an off-planet sort of space marines is being formed. And a lot of the government, space command stuff, it's all about space dominance, that is, the final frontier. So I think it's natural for them to want to control space and be developing a space going forward secretly.
In 2015, William Tompkins, a retired naval engineer and author of Selected by Extraterrestrials, verified McKinnon's claims with astounding revelations that this secret space fleet does in fact exist, and that its creation is directly linked to the Nazi saucer projects of World War II. Tompkins himself actually claims having worked over a 12-year period beginning in 1951 for an above-top secret think tank within the Douglas Aircraft Company, designing a kilometer-long anti-gravity spacecraft covertly commissioned by the United States Navy. As a teenager, William Tompkins' keen eye for crafting detailed warship models caught the interest of the United States Navy, which recruited him into intelligence programs to work on advanced technology projects. Due to his exceptional skills with naval intelligence, beginning in 1942, Tompkins directly participated in top-secret debriefings of Navy spies embedded within Nazi Germany's most secret aerospace facilities during and immediately after World War II. Although only a third-class seaman, he replaced a commander at North Island Naval Air Station in San Diego. Tompkins claims that he was personally commissioned by Defense Secretary James Forrestal to undertake upon his own initiative or at the request of any bureau or office of the Naval Air Forces studies of specific instrumentalities and techniques for the purpose of outlining research projects. In other words, his task was to evaluate enemy technologies for use in our own weapons engineering. Tompkins served directly under Admiral Rico Botta, to whom the naval intelligence operatives were reporting on technical projects observed in Nazi Germany. 28 of these naval operatives with the rank of lieutenant were used in this covert program, all of whom had German ancestry, which allowed them easy infiltration into Nazi Germany. Tompkins' job was to prepare briefing portfolios or information packages from the gathered Nazi intelligence to be disseminated among the Navy's various corporate contractors, the military-industrial complex. These contractors, in turn, were commissioned to research and develop comparable technologies to match the Nazi anti-gravity spacecraft, which were in various stages of production in German facilities across Europe as well as South America and Antarctica. The secret intelligence data gathered from Nazi war production revealed that up to and during World War II, there were actually 2 German flying saucer programs under development. The first was a largely civilian effort that predated the Nazi rise to power in 1933, while the second was a military operation led by the Nazi SS. The original civilian German saucer program had been inspired by a group of Nordic extraterrestrials who were communicating through female German psychics in the Vril Society. The second program was assisted by a group of reptilian extraterrestrials who had made secret agreements with Adolf Hitler himself. In 1939, Tompkins asserts that the reptilians gave the Nazi SS 3 large caverns in Antarctica to which the bulk of the German secret space programs were relocated. By 1942, facing the reality that German victory in Europe was impossible, the Nazis accelerated their efforts to relocate the best scientists, engineers, and vital resources to Antarctica with milk cow U-boats, specially built to accommodate very large cargoes. Over the 4 years of his covert naval intelligence service, from 1942 to 1946, Tompkins estimates giving 1,200 classified briefings across the country to defense contractors and scientists most capable of understanding the advanced German weapons projects. This required his flying all over the United States to secret manufacturing sites at Lockheed, Northrop, Douglas Aerospace Companies, and top universities that were doing secret work for the United States Navy. But aside from all the astounding technical intelligence data obtained from Nazi anti-gravity projects, was the stunning revelation that the war with Germany was nothing more than the terrestrial extension of a far greater intergalactic conflict within which humans of Earth were unwitting pawns. William Tompkins stated, "Our planet has been a battleground for warring extraterrestrial cultures for thousands of years. The result has been wars, destruction, and attempts to hinder our progress. Recently there has been a great spike in technical innovation due to help from friendly aliens." As well, Tompkins claimed that Hitler and the SS made agreements with reptilian extraterrestrials in exchange for construction design information of extraterrestrial vehicles, their propulsion, their controls, their operation, and everything needed to build those UFOs and put them into production. Further verification of William Tompkins' claims about Nazi saucer projects has come from former astronaut Clark McClellan, a 34-year career NASA veteran. In multiple interviews with Jeff Rentz, McClellan revealed that during his tenure with NASA, he spent significant time working with Project Paperclip Nazi scientists and learned directly from them just how the Nazi SS had survived the war through building advanced anti-gravity aircraft in Antarctica, while simultaneously our own United States space program was being infiltrated with Nazi personnel as well. McClellan also claimed the notorious saucer flight over Washington, D.C. in 1952 was a deliberate Nazi operation launched from the Antarctic to specifically intimidate President Truman. The German saucers were flown out of the South Pole base up to the USA over Washington and wherever else they may have flown, and that's exactly where they came from. You see, the Germans built a secret under the South Pole base to create these type instruments, and they did so there. McClellan stated some of the German engineers and technicians I met at Kennedy Space Center were as feared at Kennedy Space Center as they were in the German Army during World War II. However, McClellan claimed NASA Director Kurt Debus was a good personal friend who admitted the Germans were getting technical assistance from extraterrestrials from the Aldebaran star system. He knew the entire history of the Aryan people on this planet. They came from Aldebaran in the Hyades star system. He knew all about the Aryans. The Aryans are German people and German-type people. Assuming the truth of William Tompkins' amazing story, his services have proven a valuable asset for expanding the military-industrial complex into fully manned space-based weapons operations. As early as the 1950s, Tompkins claims the United States Navy, in cooperation with Douglas Aircraft Company, began design of military spacecraft which were eventually built in secret facilities in the Wasatch Mountains of Utah. Tompkins states, "I was assigned to design for the Navy about 16 to 18 different classes of United States Navy battle group ships. These ships fly in space. I designed United States Navy spacecraft carriers, which finally got built back in the late 70s up in Utah underneath the ground." According to Tompkins, a number of top aerospace corporations played key roles in designing and developing kilometers-long anti-gravity spacecraft used in the Navy's space fleet, Solar Warden. He claims that the Navy's 8 non-terrestrial battle groups have seen service long enough to where they are already antiquated, and a new generation of 12 space battle groups is currently under development with deployment scheduled by the 2030s. A significant side note to Tompkins' claims of anti-gravity spacecraft carriers comes from World War II and the account of a United States Army Counterintelligence Corps investigation of a 300-foot-long cylindrical craft discovered in Germany's Harz Mountains. The machine was hollow and abandoned, apparently with all of its control and propulsion systems removed. This CIC investigator was told under strictest security by his superiors that the Germans designed this craft as a space machine to go to the moon, and that all of the operational craft had already been flown from the Harz Mountain facility to South America and Africa. William Tompkins confirmed that United States Navy Vice Admiral Leslie Stevens was also aware of naval intelligence regarding Nazi Germany's secret flying saucer programs, and that his son, film producer Leslie Stevens Jr., was likely aware of this operation as well. As such, it is suspicious that Leslie Stevens Jr. was part of a Navy-sanctioned soft disclosure process that would use Hollywood's television movie industry to reveal elements of the Navy's secret space program. Consequently, the business relationship between Gene Roddenberry and Leslie Stevens Jr. suggests that the original Star Trek TV series was initially based on information gained by Admiral Rico Botta and Vice Admiral Leslie Stevens, that in fact an operational United States Navy space fleet would be deployed under active cooperation with Nordic extraterrestrials in an alliance that would counterbalance hostile threat from reptilian aliens. All through the Star Trek series, we see Starfleet is fully operated under naval military protocols with the assistance of benevolent Vulcan extraterrestrials in defense against malevolent reptilian Klingons. Thanks to Freemason Gene Roddenberry, Navy Space Fleet operations have been hidden in plain sight since 1966.
Fascinating.
The most puzzling and disturbing aspect of the Nazi saucer mystery is the covert installment of exotic Nazi technologies into our own aerospace and defense industries, which almost suggests that these technologies were never intended to rescue the German war effort in 1945. It is as if those Nazi visionary physicists and engineers were actually co-opted for some unstated future military operation of a far greater magnitude than even World War II, an alien military operation that has co-opted our own national defense establishment and all of Earth humanity's physical sciences to serve an extraterrestrial galactic war beyond human comprehension. Could it be that the greatest secret society's secret is that banking, political, and corporate leadership around the world are slave proxy cutouts serving the covert agendas of extraterrestrial warlords? The revelations of William Tompkins seem to confirm just that. Without advice or consent, humans of Earth have been recruited as unwitting pawns into a war on a galactic scale to serve belligerent alien aggressors. And historic evidence seems to suggest that in 1954, President Eisenhower himself sold our nation out to evil, parasitic extraterrestrials in exchange for advanced technologies, creating the military-industrial draconian complex. In his book, The Day After Roswell, retired Army Colonel Philip Corso, former National Security Advisor to President Eisenhower, stated, "We were convinced that whoever the UFO extraterrestrials were, they were tampering with our planet, operating with impudence, and manipulating us constantly and secretly. But it was a secret that had our full compliance because we were unwilling to admit the truth and fight the war. Those of us in the military who knew what was happening also felt that we could be experiencing an invasion that was more of an infiltration. They were compromising our very systems of defense and government. As long as we were incapable of defending ourselves, we had to allow the ETs to intrude as they wished. We had negotiated a kind of surrender with them as long as we couldn't fight them. They dictated the terms, because they knew what we most feared was disclosure. Hide the truth and the truth becomes your enemy. Disclose the truth and it becomes your weapon. We hid the truth and the extraterrestrials used it against us." Humanity is not about to be invaded. Humanity is not in the middle of an invasion. Humanity has been invaded, and the invasion is nearly in its final stages. Great invasions do not happen with thundering smoke and nuclear weaponry. That is the mark of an immature society. Great invasions happen in secrecy. So does the insidious, malignant decadence spreading throughout our national political institutions, the news media, Hollywood films, and the general population itself actually reveal the alien invasion that has successfully captured our planet. The Draco-reptilian hidden masters who for centuries have manipulated humanity through secret societies. And ultimately, who owns our secret space fleet? Rothschild Zionist bankers? William Tompkins claims our Navy space fleet is under benevolent Nordic alien control. But can we be sure? Trillions of dollars unaccountably vanish from our national defense budget. Are these monies financing secret space fleet protection? They could just as easily be financing a utopian off-world habitat for the super elite, while leaving the planet's expendable surface dwellers to languish in toxic sweatshop slavery. Skunkworks aerospace engineer, Mossad Zionist Ben Rich, stated, "We already have the means to travel among the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black projects, and it would take an act of God to ever get them out to benefit humanity." An arrogant declaration that begs the question, if these technologies don't benefit humanity, just who do they benefit? Is a secret space fleet the ultimate protection of the human race, or the ultimate threat?